How do I know Kamala Harris won that debate last night? Well, for one thing, this morning Donald Trump called into Fox and Friends and said ABC News should have its license revoked. Seriously.
I think ABC took a big hit last night. I mean, to be honest, they're a news organization. They have to be licensed to do it. They ought to take away their license for the way they did that.
Of course, you don't need to be licensed to report the news. You need to have a broadcast license to operate a TV or a radio station, but you don't need a special license in addition to that to have a news division at your TV network. Then again, it doesn't surprise me that Donald Trump doesn't seem to realize that, because Donald Trump is a know-nothing dipshit. He apparently still believes that you need to show photo ID in order to buy groceries. Donald Trump doesn't know which way is up. Donald Trump walks through life with the kind of impenetrable confidence that is only ever found in men who are as profoundly ignorant as he is. But even though he seems to believe that he was treated very unfairly at the debate last night, he's also pretty sure that he won.
I thought it was terrible from the standpoint of ABC. They're the most dishonest, in my opinion, the most dishonest news organization. And that's saying a lot because they're all essentially really dishonest. But I thought I did a great job. It was 3-on-1. And I thought I did a great job.
Just an example of the sort of cognitive dissonance that makes Donald Trump's worldview and self-image possible. He believes that he was treated very unfairly, that the debate was a 3-on-1 affair, that it was so unfair and so rigged against him that ABC News should be taken off the air, should lose its license as a result of how they treated him. And yet, despite that, against overwhelming odds, he still was the victor. He was the absolute dominating champion of that debate, even though they were very unfair to him and they mistreated him terribly and they should lose their news license or whatever as a result. He also complains to his buddies at Fox and Friends about, the times they fact-checked him. How dare they?
It was a rigged deal, as I assumed it would be, because when you looked at the fact that they were correcting everything and not correcting with her.
And that right there gives it away, doesn't it? Why he's so mad, why he believes he was treated so unfairly by the debate moderators last night. They were correcting everything. Imagine that. They were correcting the lies that he told, and they weren't even correcting all of them, or even close to all of them. Trump himself, elsewhere in that Fox and Friends appearance, estimates that he was fact-checked last night on the air, on the debate, by the moderators 6 times. If you watched that debate and you exist outside the Trump cult bubble of bullshit, you know he told way more than 6 lies during that debate last night, and most of them went completely uncorrected and completely unchallenged by the moderators, and quite a few of them went unchallenged and uncorrected, even by Kamala Harris herself. He got away with a lot, and he's pissing and moaning the next day because they corrected him on 6 of the dozens of lies that he told. He got off easy. The Washington Post published a fact-check analysis of the debate, and their fact-checker, Glenn Kessler, identified a total of 55 false claims that were made during the debate by either candidate, and almost all of them come from Trump. I'm not going to go through the entire fact check and all 55 false claims in this video. I'll put a link to the article in the video description, and you can check it out for yourself if you're interested. If you do, you might notice a difference between the untrue things or the questionable things that Kamala Harris said that have been identified by Glenn Kessler, and the untrue things that Donald Trump said that were identified by Glenn Kessler, other than the completely lopsided numbers where almost all of it is on Trump's side and just a few of them are on Kamala Harris's side. Even the ones that are on Kamala Harris's side, it's mostly, well, she exaggerated a little, or the figures that she cites are a bit out of date. That's not a completely accurate portrait of the true situation, or she's quoting Trump, but she's taking him a little out of context, or she got a little detail here or there wrong. Harris's falsehoods are of that kind. Trump's are described in much blunter, less ambiguous language. This is false. This is poppycock. Trump is wrong. This is a ridiculous slur in one example. Trump didn't just lie, and he didn't just lie his ass off. He lied his ass off so often and in such a clear, obvious way that there is no other way, even for a mainstream media outlet like the Washington Post, which, much like the New York Times, has got both sides itis and is trying desperately not to even report the truth in a way that might seem to favor one candidate over the other. Even the Washington Post has to admit he lied, he lied, he lied. He was wrong, he was wrong. This is false, this is false. It's not a matter of interpretation. It's not a matter of, well, depending on how you look at it, maybe there's some truth in what he's saying, or you can kind of see what he was getting at. Nope, he lied, he was wrong. He said outrageously untrue and unfair things throughout the debate, and that's why he was fact-checked more than she was during the actual debate. And since the actual debate was over, Trump and his surrogates have complained about after the fact-checking, like this article in the Washington Post by Glenn Kessler saying, oh, sure, they point out all the lies that Donald Trump said, but they're not fact-checking Kamala Harris. They fact-checked the entire debate. If there are fewer items on Kamala Harris's side of the fact-check, that's because she told fewer lies. She said fewer things that weren't true. It's lopsided because of Trump, not because of media bias. If you want to blame somebody for why all of the falsehoods are on Trump's column and very few of them are in Kamala Harris's column, blame your guy. Blame Trump, because he's the one who told all those lies. But like I said, there are a few strikes in Kamala Harris's column of the fact check as well. Her performance last night was not perfect, factually speaking, although it was much better than that fire hose of bullshit Trump was spraying the cameras with all night. And Harris's performance, honestly, wasn't perfect from a purely performative point of view either. I think she did great overall. She came across as strong and confident. She handled herself well, and she more than handled Trump. I mean, she handled Trump all night and made him look like a buffoon, like a cartoon character, like a child having a temper tantrum. She did really, really well as far as that goes, and I don't think it's questionable that she won the debate. She came out looking better between the two of them. But there were times when maybe she didn't challenge him as strongly as I would have liked. She didn't punch back as hard as I would have liked. There were many times where she didn't really answer the question, but unlike Trump, who would just kind of go off in whatever direction he wanted and just start off on a tangent about immigration and his dystopian nightmare immigration scenario, no matter what the topic of the question actually was. At least when Harris would ignore the question and go off into a little bit of her stump speech or some memorized remarks, it was usually something that was at least within the sphere of interest of the question. It may not exactly answer the question, but at least had something to do with the subject at hand. Not every time. I was disappointed in the answer to the only question of the night about climate change, where she mentioned climate change a little bit and then immediately pivoted into investing in green jobs, and then pivoted from there into talking about strengthening the American auto industry and manufacturing, which is all well and good, but has nothing to do with climate change. The question was about climate change. And her answer on the only question of the night about the Israel-Gaza situation, again, disappointing. She spent most of the time reaffirming her commitment to protecting and standing behind Israel, and she did mention the humanitarian disaster, the atrocities that have been committed against the Palestinian people, and the fact that they do deserve to live in peace and security and to have their own state, and that they're working to establish a ceasefire agreement between the two sides. Like, she did pay some lip service to the Palestinians, and she did at least acknowledge the suffering and the legitimacy of the outrage about the suffering of the people in Gaza. But that was a tiny portion of her answer. She spent most of the time talking about Israel and how she will always be a champion of Israel. Not unexpected, but still nonetheless disappointing. So it wasn't a perfect performance from Kamala Harris, but at least when she did go off and not really address the question, but move into talking about whatever she wanted to talk about instead. She talked in terms of specifics. She had plans. Trump, in one of his more infamous lines of the night, said, well, I don't have a plan to replace health care, but I have concepts of a plan. Kamala Harris actually has plans. She has facts and figures. She has specific goals. She has numbers. She has clear intentions of what she wants to do, and in very general terms of how she wants to do it. And she talked a lot about that during the debate. So even if she did wander a little off topic, or if not completely off topic, at least wander off the specific question, when she talked about specific plans. It sounds like she actually has some idea what she's doing. She sounds like a coherent, intelligent, competent person. And that ultimately is the choice that viewers of that debate were presented with. If you watched that debate last night, and again, and this happens every 4 years. I don't know why I'm always surprised by this, but every 4 years you get to this point in the election where there's a couple of months left, or maybe even less time. Maybe it's even a few weeks left in some cases, and there are still undecided voters. And I can never understand why. How can you be undecided at this point? How can you watch Donald Trump and watch Kamala Harris and go, gee, I just don't know. I don't understand it, but it is apparently a reality for a lot of people in this country, as it is every election cycle. So if you are an undecided voter and you watched that debate last night, you were presented with a choice that could not have been clearer. You can vote for Kamala Harris, who is an experienced, serious, intelligent, compassionate, empathetic public servant with specific plans for what she wants to do in her presidential administration, for which problems she wants to try to solve and how she wants to try to solve them, for what issues she cares about. Or you can vote for...
I have been a leader on fertilization. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. Her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets.
Whatever that is,